Are we live?
Yes.
Hello, Facebook Live. So excited to bring you our first Facebook Live session, the sales clinic. So I'm Antonio Garrido. This is Carlos Garrido.
Hello.
We're coming to you out of Miami. So wherever you are, I hope the weather's as nice as it is with us here. So why are we here? Well, we're here to answer your sales prospecting, business development questions. That's what we're about. And we hope you're going to join in. We hope you're going to tell family and friends and everyone about us, and you're going to keep visiting us again and again and again. So, and if you are too shy to be asking 2 questions, then we're just going to answer some kind of FAQs that we get along the way. So that's kind of us out of the way. That's kind of what we're about. Do you want to say a few moments about who you are and?
Sure. As most of you know, I'm Carlos Garrido. I'm co-founder of Absolute Sales Development, which is Sandler training straight out of Miami. And we make it our business here in Miami to help companies and sales teams and business owners who have got real stretch ambitions and real stretch goals, achieve those goals through the development of their people and their process and their activities. So that's what we're all about. We're about helping people and companies achieve enormous success.
So, for those of you not familiar with Sandler, okay, so we're an organization, a global sales and training and business development company. We are 49 years old, I think. I think we're 50 next year. So, and we train every vertical, every market. We've come across every kind of problem. So what we want today is just call in, dial in, let us know your sales and prospecting and business development challenges, and we're going to try and give you some free advice along the way, and hopefully you'll become lifelong friends and BFF, and we can be buddies forever. So I think that's it. Should we kick off with maybe answering a question or 2?
Yeah. Who knows? There may be one on the web. Jubelka, our assistant, is helping us.
She's behind the camera. Say hello.
Hello.
And so she's going to keep us to time. She's going to make sure that the questions get to us. So Juby, give us what's going on. What's going on?
Okay, so Tom from Miami asks, I'm a lawyer and I'm trying to build my practice. What advice can you give me?
Okay, nice. That's it.
Nice, lawyer. Okay. I like working with lawyers.
He's the lawyer guy.
I'm the lawyer guy. Why? I like working with lawyers, engineers, architects, CPAs. Used to be a CPA. One of the reasons I really like working with lawyers and professionals is they typically have a lot of easy gains. I can work with them and make pretty big gains pretty quickly. Why is that? It's because the mindset of a professional, the professionals that I work with, until they meet me, the mindset is one of diligent professional advice. Their mindset is, if I bring my clients and my market excellent advice, whether I'm a lawyer or an accountant or whoever I am, if I do my job great, then the world is going to be a path to my door. And if only the world were that fair, it isn't that fair. It's called the Methuselah principle, actually. Methuselah, the oldest man in the Bible. It's called the Methuselah principle because if you live to be 960, whatever Methuselah got to, you will build $1 million practice just by being a really smart, good professional. But most people aren't going to work and live till they're 960, however many years old. And so my first advice, I think the question was, what advice do I give a lawyer? My first advice, unless you're prepared to work till you are the age of Methuselah, my advice is get serious about practice development. What does that look like? Practice development is actually an activity. It's active, it's not passive. That means if I'm a lawyer, I have to time block a certain amount of my week or my day or my month to actively doing things that are going to develop my client base. I'm going to time block it, and I'm going to develop a system, my own personal practice development system. It might, depending on the discipline that you're in, it might look like doing a certain number of talks to trade associations. It might look like a certain number of high quality networking events, and let's not fool ourselves about the difference between a high quality networking event and a low quality networking event. There's plenty of opportunities for a $10 networking event. Problem with $10 networking events is they attract $10 clients, and nobody wants to build that practice. It might involve having a certain marketing campaign. It might involve having a certain method that they're going to use to ask for referrals. There's a whole bunch of things that a lawyer can do to develop a robust, systematic prospecting business development system. And the first thing I do if I were a lawyer would be to establish that practice development system. Now I can feel my partner Antonio Bush prickling at the side. I think he might have some other ideas.
I was just going to say strategic partnerships critical.
Strategic partnerships, absolutely. Identifying centres of influence within your market. And do you know, some people just get lost and forget there are so many referrals available from their existing clients that they're not asking for, from ex-clients that they're not asking for. And of course, the one that everyone misses is a diligent process to use LinkedIn well. That's what you're about to say. LinkedIn is a mine of, there's gold there for every professional trying to build a practice. Having a system, and there are a bunch of systems that we help clients with, to use LinkedIn effectively. And I don't mean passively just have a profile on LinkedIn. I mean things that you do on a regular basis that you get good at, once a day, once a week, to develop a practice through LinkedIn. Antonio's just stood up. I think he's getting our how to use LinkedIn to build your practice book. We have a book. And he's going to show you this link. This is a book about how to use LinkedIn. It's actually, we have a free PDF on our website, right?
Yeah,
free, gratis, right, no cost.
Free electronic download. So LinkedIn are a client of ours, God bless them, who sold, I think, the business just recently to Microsoft for 24 billion.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah, so they like the way that we do LinkedIn so much that they co-authored a book with us, which is LinkedIn the Sandler Way, 25 secrets that show people how to leverage the world's largest professional network. That's what it looks like. Anybody, not just who asked from Miami?
Lawyers,
Tom.
So Tom, download this, and anybody else that's watching. So go to our website, which is absolute.sandler.com, and I go to the tab, I think it's free resources. Go to the tab, free resources, tons of white papers in there if you're a contractor, if you're a sales guy, if you're a lawyer, tons of white papers to download. You can get this as a free download. You could buy one from Amazon at the gorgeous cost of $16.95. So that's LinkedIn. I'm getting we've talked about this one for long enough sign. So any other questions?
Alice asked, what advice can you give someone that isn't having much success with cold calling?
Oh, nice. So what advice would I give somebody that's not having much success cold calling? I'm going to stand up. Can you pan? Can you do that? So I think cold calling, at Sandler we talk about what success looks like. So I'm going to kind of face this way. Success in anything. So I'll try and make this pretty broad and then get narrow. So success in anything in our world relies on three things. So success relies on some certain behaviors, right? So let's talk about kind of doing things. If you think about success in anything, including cold calling or even making an omelette, right? So if you're going to make an omelette, a successful omelette, you need to do some things like go and get some eggs and get a frying pan and all that kind of stuff. So there's some behaviors that you need to succeed at something. You need to have the right attitude, right? So you need the right kind of behaviors, the right kind of attitude, and then you also need to have the right kind of techniques or skill, right? So if you have the right behaviors, the right attitudes, and the right skill or technique, you're going to succeed at cold calling. You're going to succeed at anything. So what are the right behaviors that you need for cold calling? What are the right attitudes and what are the right techniques? So, well, let's just kind of populate a few of these if you're kind of following along. So for the right techniques, you need to make sure that you've got a great script, a great 30-second commercial, right? You need to know how to get your tonality right. You need to know when you're going to call and all of that kind of stuff. So you need to get some skills around cold calling. And unfortunately, the only way to get good at doing anything, like, I don't know, riding a bike, is to, Carlos?
Get on a bike.
Get on a bike and ride a bike. So you've got to, this comes from reps, this comes from sit-ups. You've got to have the right kind of techniques, and you've got to develop them over time. You're going to have the right behaviors, which is basically make a plan for cold calling. How many cold calls am I going to make? Who am I going to cold call? What time am I going to cold call? Block the time as Carlos talked about earlier. So block the time between 9 and 10 on a Monday and 3 and 4 on a Thursday, whenever it is. Block that time, and the behavior is you actually have to pick up the phone and do it. You only need 4 or 5 seconds of bravery, maybe 5 or 6 times a day. Right, so, and then you need, the most important, most crucially for this, is the right attitude. And what's that attitude? That is that you do have a right to prospect in your market. It is okay to ring a stranger and expose you and yourself and your business to the risk of sale. So, you know, you are worthy, you are able to do it, you have equal business stature. So, if you sat down for 10 minutes or so, and wrote what would be the right behaviors to succeed at cold calling, what would be the right attitudes that I need to have to cold call, what would be the right techniques that I need to do to get good at it. Certainly call us at any time or contact us, and we'll send you more information if you like. I don't think we have a white paper on cold calling. However, there is another book, as luck would have it. Carlos is just going to go and race out for it. This is turning into a commercial, and that was never the intention. But somebody in our organisation called John Rosso, who's one of our superstars, wrote a book which is called Prospect the Sandler Way. And it's a 30-day program for mastering stress-free lead development. The thing about cold calling is they're stressful, right? And that's why kind of people avoid them. But the reality is cold calling is far from dead. It's one of the most efficient and effective ways of getting new business, because it's quick, it's immediate, and you can just plow through some numbers. A really good attitude to have, and then Judy's giving me that noise, that look again. A really good attitude to have is another Sandler colleague of mine, of ours. He figures out that basically he's got to the point where he makes 14 dials a day. He has 4 conversations from those 14 dials, and every 4 of those conversations, 1 out of every 4 turn into a meeting, and out of every 1 in 4 of those meetings, he gets some business. He knows his average client, for him, is worth about $10,000 a year. He's figured out that every time he picks up the phone and tries to dial somebody and gets a no, and puts the phone down 30 seconds later, effectively that's, I think it's something like $400 into his bank account. And that really helps with your attitude. So, spend some time thinking about what success would look like for you in terms of cold calling, and maybe some of that will help. Carlos has got more to add. This is so much fun.
So, everything Antonio said exactly right. I wanted to help a little bit with the attitude piece, which is, I believe that whilst ever you consider what you're doing is selling, it's going to put your ego at risk. I believe that prospecting isn't selling, and I believe that cold calling in particular, if you're considering it a selling activity, I think you're on the road for disappointment. Prospecting generates an extraordinary number of great leads, and leads create sales. Leads create clients, and clients and customers create sales. When you're prospecting, I believe that you are sorting. Your purpose in prospecting is to sort the people you call into 2 buckets. Bucket number 1 is, this isn't somebody who wants to buy from me today, so I don't need to make an appointment with that person. One day that might turn into something. Bucket number 2 is, that's somebody who has expressed some interest in what I'm doing, and this is a lead that I want to develop, and I want to arrange an appointment. They maybe invite me in. I believe whilst ever you consider what you're doing when you're cold calling as selling, I think that it puts undue pressure on you and on the prospect. I think that when you're cold calling, your attitude should be, I am sorting. That's what I wanted to add.
Nice. Who asked that question?
That was
Alice.
Nice. Well, I hope that helped, Alice. If it didn't, just say, no. What I wanted to know was, how do you cold call?
Hey, you know, that's a great point, because if you put on follow-up questions, you know, we're going to do this regularly, and we'll get back to stuff that people raise. If they raise a question, we don't get to those questions, we're going to write them down, and we are going to get back to them. Yes,
Fab.
good.
Do you guys want to let the viewers know what we're doing today with this video?
Okay, I did it last time, you do it next time.
I can't remember what we're doing with it.
All right, so welcome to our first ever Facebook Live session.
Oh, I see. Just a recut of that. Okay, go.
Yeah. So here's what we're about. So we fairly regularly, we don't know how regularly yet, probably once every couple of weeks, we're going to be doing these live sales clinics where people can call in or dial in or make a message. And I hope we're getting lots of thumbs. Are we getting any thumbs?
We've got
nice. So to ask questions, it's a sales clinic. We're here to genuinely to help, to generate some interest in us and our business and Sandler, and at the same time kind of help along. And we know, because Carlos and I, we have classes every day. We help clients every day, and so does our organization. And there are 1,000 things that people ask us how to grow their business, how to develop their business, or even sales managers, how we're going to manage our teams and leaders, how do we help that? And so we help customer service people, we work with those guys, we work with sales guys, we work with managers, we work with leaders. Yeah, no question is done. Just ask us a question.
I heard that before. There are some dumb questions.
There are some dumb questions.
Silva asks, what's the best way to overcome the it's too early to buy something now? Try me back in a couple weeks or months. But then when you follow up, it's too late and they're out of money.
Can I say that?
Yeah, just do it one more time. The question again.
Oh, it's too early to buy something now. Try me back in a couple weeks. But when you follow up, it's too late and they're out of money.
Nice question. So it all depends. It all depends when that comment is made. But let's imagine for a moment that because we just had this behind us, the cold calling idea. Let's imagine you've cold called somebody. Hey, my name's Carlos, and I have a business called Sandler Training, and if I can take a minute, I'll tell you a little bit about what I do, and you go into your pitch. And somebody says, that sounds, maybe they ask a couple of questions, and you actually engage and get a conversation with somebody. And then, you'll get to the end, and you'll start to try and close for an appointment, because that's all you do when you're prospecting, is you close for appointments, you're not selling. And the prospect, or the suspect, as I like to think of them, says to you, this is a little bit, it's too early today, try me back. Here's what I always say. I'll always say, George, let's imagine the guy's called George. George, do you know, that's really kind of you. Here's my one issue with that. Usually when I hear somebody say, try me back in a couple of months, it'd be a better time in a couple of months' time. What that usually means is that you're being nice, but really you want me out of your hair. Is that what we're talking about? Is that where we are today? Because if we are, then I fully understand it, and I promise I'll get out of your hair. You might even have a referral for me. That's what I would always say, because that actually gets to the truth of the matter. Problem with sales is it's so riddled with dishonesty. It's dishonesty often from the salesperson and dishonesty from the client. And part of the thing that we really help our clients achieve is an honest conversation. I would call that for what it is. It's a put-off. If it's later in the process that somebody tells you it's too early and we should try again in a couple of months or a couple of weeks' time, well, reality, what you've got there is you've got somebody you didn't qualify well in the first place. And we have a mantra at Sandler, which is there isn't any such thing as a bad prospect, just bad salespeople. If you qualify hard at the beginning, the end just seems to lay down in front of you. So I would call it for what it is. If it's a stall, call it a stall. If it's somebody that's trying to get off the hook and you kind of know it, and most of the time that inner voice will tell you the truth. If it's somebody trying to get off the hook, then just let them get off the hook. If they really want you, they will come back. And by the way, no isn't never. Just because somebody 2 weeks later says we've now got no money, that doesn't mean that that's somebody you shouldn't speak to again. It would be easy to get upset with prospects. You should never get upset with a prospect. Even when they're dishonest with you, they're only dishonest because you let them be dishonest, in my opinion. Anything to add?
Yeah, so good stuff. But I think what I always like to tell my clients when they're dealing with is this a stall, is this a put off, is this, is this genuine, is this legitimate? So, one nice technique to maybe deal with that is if somebody says to you, hey, look, that sounds really interesting, why don't you call me next Wednesday and we'll have a conversation about it. So you think, okay, great, I'll call you next Wednesday. So the very inexperienced sales guy will say, great, okay, that sounds great, I'll call you next Wednesday, and put the phone down. Slightly more advanced guy might say, guy means girl as well, right? So who asked the question? It was a lady, wasn't it?
Vet.
Okay, vet. So the slightly more advanced one would say, okay, do you want me to call you Wednesday morning or Wednesday afternoon? And then kind of set that up. Problem is that even if you, and thinks they're being terribly clever by doing so because the client's never heard of that before. But even though the client says, yeah, next Wednesday afternoon, and you go, okay, what time, 3 or 3:30, I've got in my calendar, and they go, yeah, 3, and you go, okay, great. So I'm going to call you next Wednesday at 3 to talk about X, Y, Z, right? And the client's going to go, yeah. But then let's be honest. What happens half the time? That you call the client at 3 or whenever it was on Wednesday and you get crickets, right? Tumbleweed. And the guy doesn't answer, and then you think, okay, now what am I going to do? And then you call them at 4, or maybe you even then call them on Thursday, send a bright and breezy text, and before you know it, you're in kind of voicemail jail, and every time, and it just goes nowhere. So the even more advanced, and you might say Sandler trained guy, might say, okay, so next Wednesday at 3, I'll call you, Frank. But hey, listen, just before I go, tell me what should I do if I can't get hold of you Wednesday at 3? Now you're in a position where he has to confirm that it kind of flushes out, is he genuine, is he not genuine? If the guy says something like, no, I will, and you go, yeah, but what should I do if I can't get hold of you Wednesday at 3? And the guy goes, well, just keep trying. I'd think about those kind of prickly hairs on the back of your neck that Carlos was talking about, that is this genuine? If the guy, however, says, no, you will get hold of me Wednesday at 3, or if you can't get hold of me, ring Janet, my PA, and she'll know where I am and she can get hold of me, right? So, and then the even more advanced guy will go, okay, great, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to send you an Outlook invite for Wednesday at 3. How long do you think we should be talking for? Half an hour, whatever it is. Okay, great. And then you send an Outlook invite, and guess what? If they reject it, it was never going to go anywhere. If they accept it, it's kind of locked in the calendar. Do you know what I mean? So these are some techniques, but you also need the right attitude for that. But those are some techniques for making sure that the guy is genuine. Because sometimes when we get happy ears, right, we think, we've got one. And the guy is genuinely interested. And then when we call him six days later or whatever it is, the guy just goes, do you know what, now isn't the right time. So, I don't know, is that
do you know, it was such a good question of that I want to answer part of it.
Because all our time.
Because it's a great question. And David Sandler, who established our business and put our system together, said that you can never be upset with the prospect for doing something you never told him he couldn't do. Never be upset with a prospect who did something you never told him he couldn't do that, or she couldn't do that. Imagine for a moment that there's somebody about to make a big decision about a purchase, about maybe engaging with a lawyer or engaging with buying a new car or whatever it is, and that person says, like you suggested in your question, hey, call me in a couple of months, it'd be a good time to engage then. Well, if you don't say, hey, George, here's my concern, you're going to need to make this decision before that. Let's imagine you do, you have to do that. Am I going to be a call, or are you going to call somebody else? Is it going to be the last person that you spoke to? Help me understand. Because what I'm worried about, I call you in 2 months and you've already made the decision, or the money's run out, you've got no budget left. That's my concern. Let's have a conversation about that. If you don't have that kind of conversation with them, and then you call back in 2 months, as you suggest in your question, and the money's gone, or the budget's gone, or they've already engaged somebody else, but you never told him that he couldn't do that. the judge couldn't do that. Well, then the reality is that's your fault. And it sounds pretty brutal. And the worst part is you feel like you lost something. Hey, you can't lose something you never had. You never had it. But often in sales world, and we sell, Antonio and I sell every day, and we know that it's easy to get emotionally attached to something that's really just a hope. I think it's one of the trainers said, you get addicted to hopium, right?
You do.
Salespeople are addicted to hopium with their happy ears. So don't get upset with the prospect. There's no such thing as a bad prospect, only bad salespeople.
And write this down. Hope is not a high growth strategy. So
Hope is not a
high. That's your new mantra. Hope is not a high growth strategy. You bet.
Love it.
You got to get firm with people in a loving, kind, and gentle way. But
Have we got time for one more?
yeah, Juby.
One more.
So
Yeah.
Juan from Workshop asked, how do you stay positive when things aren't going well regarding sales?
Tricky. Shall I take that?
Go.
Okay. How do you
Go
stay
for it.
positive when things aren't going well in sales? Ask the question again. How do
you stay positive when things aren't going well regarding sales?
Well, you know, this is it's interesting because we often judge ourselves by our results. Okay, so how successful am I being today? I'm going to look at how many dollars I've got in the bank or my business has got. I'm going to look at how many new clients. I'm going to look at how many sales I closed this month. I'm going to use what we call lagging indicators. Lagging indicators are going to be my yardstick of whether I've had some success this month. The problem with that is there's nothing you can do about lagging indicators. There's nothing you can do about yesterday's sales. There's nothing you can do about the number of clients you've got. The number of clients you've got are a historic measure. Instead of looking at lagging indicators, at Sandler we like to look at leading indicators. Leading indicators are those things that drive a business. How many cold calls did I make this week? How many networking events have I been to this month? How many new contacts, new conversations have I had? And do those hit my goals? Because we are completely in control of our own behaviors. We are in control, and if we judge our success by the things that we are in control of, the dollars follow. It can't not follow. You know, there's no way that can't happen. If you do the behaviors, you will get the success. And if you measure your level of satisfaction, success, and you know how well I feel about my business today by the things I can control, which is my behaviors, well, wow, you know, there's no reason you'll ever have that conversation again of how do, you know, how do you stay positive? You will be positive because in Sandler, we believe that behavior drives our attitude, not the other way around. The other way around, which is what most people let themselves believe. Oh, I'm going to behave well because I feel good today. I don't feel good today, so I'm not going to do the behaviors that I need to do to grow my business. At Sandler, we think that's absolute garbage. We know that our behaviors is what drives our attitude. Antonio,
Can I just add one thing? Am I allowed to move, Juby? Can you follow me? Right. Let me just go over here, go past Carlos. Follow me. Follow me. So, you talked about staying positive, which means about you need to have a real positive attitude. And as Carlos says, the behaviors will drive you into a positive attitude. But attitude is also determined by how do you feel about you, right? It's really important to have a good attitude. You need to feel good about you. You need to feel good about your company. You need to feel good about your market. Well, how do you get to feel good about you? It's really important. So let's go back now. Let's go back. Who asked this question?
That was Juan from...
Juan.
Right, Juan. I'm going to say something which a lot of people don't like us to say.
45 seconds.
In terms of staying positive, behave your way to a good attitude, as Carlos says, and also get yourself a vision board. Get that done. Get journaling, right? Get accountability partners. Get goals. Achieving goals is the best way to stay positive. That's what success looks like. I'm being given the big wind-up. Okay, so it's almost time. We've got to say goodbye. How sad. So thanks to everyone who joined in. Thanks to everyone who kind of asked some questions. Hope you enjoyed it. For those questions that we didn't get to, Juby will just send them to us and we'll somehow get that. I don't know how the technology works. We'll get the answers to you. The next sales clinic will be in a couple of weeks. We'll let you know. We'll put it out on Facebook. And for more information about us, www.absolute.sandler.com, you'll see us. And on all of our services and how we can possibly help. And I hope you dial in next week, no, next week or whatever. What else have we got to say?
Nope, that's good. So it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him. Thanks
Goodbye.
for joining. Bye.
Thank you.